This is an F82 BMW M4. Now if you're in the market for one of these or an F80 M3, make sure you watch this video because I'm going to cover all the common problems, show you everything that you need to check in order to get a good one. Let's go. So the year is 2014 and BMW are changing. We no longer get the M3 Coupe, instead we get this, the M4. And also gone are the screaming V8s of yesteryear, and into a brave new turbocharged world we go. But they did give the M4 a very worthy engine. Straight six, turbocharged, a peach if you will. The epitome of BMW as well, just with added turbochargers. So what could possibly go wrong? Well, let me show you the first thing that goes wrong. So now I know it's a bit like looks, noise is really subjective, but I think it sounds a bit strange. My mind's not made up on it. Comment below whether you like the sound of these engines or whether you don't. So what actually went wrong with these S55 engines then, apart from the noise? Well, thankfully, this is an engine that shares quite a lot of components with the older N55 BMW engine, so they've had a fair amount of time to work out the kinks. That's not to say there aren't problems you need to be on the lookout for. Let's get into those. So chief amongst these problems was the crank hub issue. This is probably the one that you've seen most about online. Now, this isn't a new problem. This affected the old N54 engines, the N55 engines, the N64 engines, and this, the S55 engine. N64 isn't real, made it up. It's actually a Nintendo.
That wasn't true, made it up. Shouldn't have done, sorry.
So this is no time for humour. What is a crank hub and why do we need to be bothered by it? Well, this problem relates to a part of the engine that holds the crank and the timing of the engine in sync. Now when it breaks or starts to slip, your engine's got no timing and you're not going to have an engine left for very much longer. Now thankfully there are a number of aftermarket solutions out there that take care of this problem, so hopefully the car that you're looking at is going to already have had that done. Next up, the engine could be a bit of a leaker, unfortunately. There's three areas in particular to be careful of. First up is the rocker cover. Now that's hidden by all this and the charge cooler and everything up top here. The best way of spotting that one, well, I'll tell you on the test drive, you need to stick around to see that. Next is the oil filter housing. This is really easy to see if it's leaking oil. And finally, the other spot is the sump. Now, none of these parts have inherent defects or anything like that. It's always just the gaskets that perish and start to leak over time. So have a good look in the engine bay now and underneath the car, and also check after that test drive because unscrupulous sellers will mop up that mess before you arrive. So if you're watching an M4 buyer's guide, it probably stands to reason that you're in the market to buy an M4. And if you're looking for one that doesn't have any of these problems, here it is. This car happens to be for sale. This particular car is also quite special to us as well. It's the one that we bought from Copart. It had a light front end crash. There's no polite way of putting that. I'm thinking, how could I better word that?
Collision.
We'll call it a small bump on the front. Crash doesn't sound very good. It's been repaired to a very high standard. It's completely uncategorised. It's not a Cat D or Cat S or anything like that. And yes, it's for sale. If you're interested, please drop a comment below or get in touch with us either on Facebook or Instagram. We can give you pricing and stuff. It's a really good price though, particularly if you're a subscriber. Oh, and if you are interested, I'll put the link for the videos of us rebuilding it and you can see everything that was done at the end of this video. Don't go and click them now though. Keep watching this video because it's going to be entertaining. So as with any used car purchase, we ideally want to go and view the car when it's cold. Not the weather, the actual car. In other words, we don't want the owner having been driving about in it all morning, then we turn up and we only get to see it when it's all fully warmed up and hot. Now this platform, the M3s and the M4s, are absolutely no different. What you want to listen out for is a distinct tapping coming from the engine from cold start. It only lasts for the first few minutes, so be diligent and listen out for it. What this usually pertains to is the exhaust camshaft. Now, if you look at any cars belonging to owners who have put it into BMW to get this problem looked at, they've done something with the exhaust camshaft itself. It's in the description, I'll try and add that now, which means that BMW are aware of the problem, but now so are you. So a couple things to mention before we get out on that test drive. Number one being, if you're buying an M4 in the first year of production, there was a seatbelt recall. Make sure that's been carried out. Now the other problem in here tends to be with the air conditioning. Now this was not just the first year of production, this could be any M4, so be on the lookout for that not working correctly. Turn it on the test drive. Usually could be a leaking condenser, could be leaking lines, or one of the sensors has gone bad. Either way, you're going to want to bring that into the bargain, save yourself a bit of money to get it put right. So here you are on your test drive, and I hope the car is everything you want it to be. Nothing worse than looking at a used car and it's not as described. Hopefully it's as nice as this one. And remember, this one is for sale, so if you do come and see it, this one will be as nice as this one is. So what are we on the lookout for then? Well, let's start with the gearbox. As you probably already know, you could get a 6-speed manual, or you could get this, the 7-speed DSG gearbox. Now thankfully, both of them are pretty problem-free. Whether that changes as the years roll by and the cars start to get a few more miles on them, we don't know. Maybe we'll return and do a video on that a bit later. But as for now, the gearboxes tend to be pretty solid. Now that does lead me on to one other problem though, and that is the coolant temperature sensor. Why am I pairing that with the gearbox? Well, you tend to notice this problem through the gearbox, oddly, and that's because when the coolant temperature sensor goes bad, the DSG gearbox tends to hang on to gears a lot longer because it thinks the car's colder than it is. It's trying to warm itself up. So be on the lookout for a car that doesn't change gear when you feel it should be changing gear, and if it changes gear just a little bit oddly in general, that should be a red flag. Remember those oil leaks I told you about back at the garage? Well, that rocker cover one that isn't very visible when you're under that engine, thankfully you tend to notice it in here because the hot oil lands on the exhaust and you're going to smell it. So as well as keeping an eye out, also keep a smell out, I guess. So performance-wise, these M4s really do go well. Even coming out of a 700 horsepower GTR, this feels pretty quick. Also grips up really well. Okay, it's a rare dry day here in Scotland. Traction is impressive though, and again, the one that you're looking at, it should be the same case. Now obviously these come with a different settings, so Sport Plus, Sport, Comfort and so on. Make sure you cycle through a few of these, because one of the telltale signs of a failing or intermittently failing ABS sensor, that can be quite common by the way, is it will lock out the M modes and also some of the diff settings. Make sure that's not the case on the one you're looking at. So the BMW M4 and M3 for that matter, how do we score them on our reliability leaderboard? Well, as well as being extremely capable cars, these are actually really quite reliable as well. That being said, as you've seen in this video, there are a couple of issues to be aware of, but that's exactly why we make these videos, so you can go out there and find the very best ones possible. So, with all that in mind, we score it a very respectable 7.5 out of 10. Now thank you so much for watching. Please do hit that subscribe button, hit the like button so others can find this video as well, and we'll see you next time.